Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Ulfa Zulkaida. I will explain about varieties of bilingualism. Most of us think of a bilingualism as a person who is able to speak and understand two languages. It's right, but there may be varieties of bilingualism. For example, like people can communicate use speech type language and also can communicate by a sign language. And there are people can read a second language fluently, even write it well, but she can speak the language. It's a bilingualism. Second is bilingualism beneficial or detrimental. Most of us think bilingualism as something good. For one thing, bilingualism can communicate with other people, use the other people language. And knowing another language is also important things within countries where there is more than one official language, as in New Zealand. In New Zealand, have four official language, which is German, French, Italian, and Romance. But bilingualism can be detrimental because can bring a negative influence to learner and can regarded as potentially detrimental to young children's culture's value. And the last is effects of early bilingualism on first language development and intelligence. 1. Effects on first language development. Bilingualism related first or second language development with the result that because the child with two languages never really learn either language as well as monolingual speaker of those language. And the second is effect and intelligence. Bill and LeBurn at 1962 they concluded that if children have more than one language to analyze, they pay more attention to structure, pattern, and functional of words, which in turn has a crucial effect on further reading and academic success. Maybe that's all for me. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, next material about sequential and simultaneous learning situation. Number 1, sequential and simultaneous learning situations. In sequential bilingualism, young children are said to pass through for common stage. October and Snow, 1994. Number 1, children attempt to use the language learned at home with other children in the wider community where a different language is used. Number 2, they abandon their home language in favor of communication through gesture. Number 3, the children begin to use the second language in ways similar to children learning first language. And 4, finally, they begin to produce grammatical utterance in appropriate situation. Number 2, simultaneous learning. One person speak one language only, or one person speak two language. Number 2, the one person one language situation is better. It seems the children are so flexible that they can be fluent in both language by the age of 3 or 4. Regardless of the language situation, in a one person one language situation, the child who hears the speech does not need to think about which of the two sets of language knowledge is meant. The child will know that his mother will speak one language while his father will speak another. Next, a simultaneous trilingual case, one person, one language. case of three simultaneous language, one interesting and actual example is a friend of the first author living in an English speaking community in Honolulu. In the family, the mother only speaks Japanese and the father only speaks English. By the age of 3, each of the boys in turn become trilingual in English, Japanese, and English and Russian. These languages are returned by children into adulthood. Next, developmental stage in bilingual language learning. Children who learn their first two languages simultaneously follow the same route as other. Children learning their first language, Leon 1996. They acquire the phonological properties of their native language at the same rate as monolinguists, but gradually they begin to prefer one language, which becomes their dominant language. In addition, bilinguals move through the same stage of one-word speech, 2 and 3-word speech, then increase in complexity with morphemes. Okay, next, first language and second language relations affect learnability, the transfer effect. Number 1, first language similar to second language. The nature of the similarity relationship between the first and second language will determine the rate of learning to the extent that two languages have similarities such as position of the article, gender, obligatory, marking of nouns for plurality, and similar syntactic structures. There will be a greater facilitation. There can be significant similarities in terms of vocabulary as well. Thus, we may conclude that the greater the similarity between two languages in terms of their syntax, vocabulary, and sound system, the more rapid the rate of acquisition in the knowledge. Number 2, facilitation occurs even between very different languages. It is clear that the knowledge of a prior language will help the learning of a second language, even when the two languages are quite different with respect to vocabulary, syntax, and pronunciation. The next material about strategy for second language production. Number 1, the first language strategy and the second language strategy. Because errors are easy to observe and are good indicators of a person's level of second language knowledge, there have been many good studies done on errors. See Corder 1981 for a review. The problems that is: number 1, error caused by interference. Number 2, error caused by second language strategy. Number 3, error caused by first language strategy. Number 2, strategy for sentence production and communication. Communication strategies may have an effect on learning science. The more the learner speaks, the greater linguistic input the learner will receive. The greater the input, the more the opportunity for language learning. This type of strategy include overgeneralization, in which a rule of a second language is applied in inappropriate context such as the definite article being used with dinner in the example above. Number 3, strategies for becoming a better second language learner. According to Rubin, 1981, the strategies used by successful language learners include: Number 1, verification; 2, inductive processing; 3, deductive reasoning; 4, practice; 5, memorization; and 6, monitoring. Next material about teaching reading in a bilingual situation at home. Number 1, how to teach the reading of two language. First, the parents should be using the one person, one language approach. As for teaching reading, however, we recommend that the teaching be done sequentially, with the second language following the first after a year or 2. Number 2, which language should be read first? The language to be learned first is the one that is most important for the child's welfare. I think that's all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.